This week on The Geek, the Nerd, and the Tangent, Matt and Eric saw a dinosaur movie, and we talk about TV. Welcome to The Geek, the Nerd, and the Tangent. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on today. We're back. We missed last week.
Yeah, we are back.
Last week we had technical difficulties and Brett was gone.
And because of that, we couldn't do our show.
Yep.
It's all my fault.
It's all Brett's fault.
And now he's back, though.
Technology is not... I'm not the master of technology. It's not my fault.
It's your fault.
It's technology's fault. Well, and I was gone. That was my fault.
You're not a Jedi master in technology?
I say,
Or you
technology,
just had one.
do what I say, and then it doesn't. Okay, I'm Brett.
And I'm Eric.
And I am Matt.
Today we
And we're... Never mind, I won't say it.
What the?
never mind, he won't say it. Filler word. We have some things to catch up, so let's just dive into it. Should we just dive into a random roundup?
2 weeks has gone by. I feel like we haven't done a show in a month.
It feels
It
that
feels
way.
like a long time since we've done a show.
I feel like that.
We've been so consistent. Even when people are gone on cruises.
And I just want to mention, I've never been gone for a show yet.
And
Yeah, you haven't.
Matt is the heart of
Take a
this
vacation,
show.
Matt.
I'm not doing it.
It'll relax you.
If we take a vacation, we have to remember to come and pick up the stuff.
I did take a vacation, and I was still back in time for the podcast.
You didn't take a long enough vacation.
Yeah, I think you just want me gone.
Well,
Eric's like, we need a break from you for a week.
need a break
so go
from
take a
that.
vacation.
Maybe.
the show doesn't function
happening.
without two of us. And Matt's the common denominator here.
Who wants to be a Lone Ranger on this show? Just talk like, hey, everyone,
I
listen
did
to
that
the
once.
sound of my
Oh,
voice.
Matt's done it. He really...
I did it with my Jurassic World review.
Oh, that's different. I mean, you had...
How was that different?
How's
it different, Eric?
It's different because you're
And I-
getting
different.
one review. It wasn't
No,
too
it's-
long.
It is. It would be.
You know.
It would be difficult to put on a whole show by yourself, I think.
And I'm going to make
People
the
do it.
confession.
Yeah, they do.
I didn't listen to it.
You didn't.
Yeah.
The review.
But you haven't seen the movie either,
Yeah.
so I don't
So-
blame you.
So you
It's
guys...
fine.
will
I know
spoil
with the
it for me
reviews. I was
today.
thinking, like, should we have them spoiler? I mean, because you did, and then I look at other reviews and they have no spoilers, and I'm like, isn't the point of the review to get you to the movie?
What I
And-
usually do is I do a section 4 that's non-spoilery.
Oh yeah, that's
and
true.
then
I did
move
listen to
into
that.
spoilers, and I warn people when we get there. So
Yeah,
that
I did
way-
listen to the beginning and the end.
Well, that
and
was
to
your
hear
fault. You
No, I
shouldn't.
wanted to hear your grade. I wanted to know what, even though I disagree with
So
it.
maybe you disagree with my C+? What did you think of it?
I loved it. I loved Jurassic World. I mean, it was so different. That's what I loved because it was self-contained. It wasn't on the island. It was in this
It was
random,
on the island.
Yeah, at the beginning, but then they changed the setting like 360 on you, and you're like,
It's
where
like
are they going?
Jurassic World or Lost World.
No, Jurassic World was at the Lost World was
World.
at the very end. Them just running away from the T-Rex. This was them trying to save the dinosaurs and taking a different direction. They were like, okay, this is crazy. They get kidnapped, and then they get put in this house, and it turns into like a horror movie almost, which
A
is
little bit.
kind of cool. I liked that horror film. I mean, not...
Well,
So I actually liked the film pretty well. I would go see it again. A C+ is...
It should be at least a B, I think.
I don't think so, man. This movie was not... There were a lot of missed opportunities, and there were a lot of things in there that they should have
There
not
were
done.
there were some actors that were annoying, and that's where I give it a B. But the story wise, and the repercussions, and the moral thing at the end, you're like, okay, if this was real life, they put the whole world at jeopardy, and that's where.
I know, and that little... Okay.
the whole world's
Sorry,
in
Brett.
jeopardy.
Sorry, we're going to have to...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do we want to discuss?
We're trying not
Hold
to
on.
spoil
Do
Do
it
you
for
want to
Brett.
spoil? I mean,
You
we
guys,
can.
you might as well just go ahead. There will be Jurassic Park's Jurassic World, the latest kingdom. What's it called?
The Lost Kingdom.
Brett, if you want to go see it, I'm up for it.
Okay.
I'd see it again. The thing is, though,
Need to
like
do that.
as far as movie making, it wasn't perfect movie making. It was interesting and entertaining to watch, but I don't think it stands on its own as a movie. I think it's completely going off of the hype of the original movie. It's going off the hype of the other movies. It's not a movie that's, hey, if we didn't have those predecessors, I don't think this movie would have stood on its own at all.
I think it
In some
backs
cases,
off of the first Jurassic World, but it has really no connections to the first trilogies at all. I mean, everything has because of like Dr. Wu and
except
stuff.
for the pointless throwbacks.
Those
minute.
were so subtle, though.
No.
They were.
No, if you're
I
familiar,
barely was like, okay. When you pointed them out, I was like, okay, there they are. But they still.
oh my gosh, I was rolling my eyes every 3 minutes in this movie because of all those throwbacks that were just unnecessary.
Those throwbacks were just so subtle, though. I mean,
They weren't subtle. If you're familiar with the first movie,
yeah, you had to watch it
like I
like
am,
50,000 times. I mean, like
a lot of people have.
Yeah, they have, but
It's been around
still.
for 20 years.
But it still was a nice story. I left away feeling completed. I was like, I felt better when I left that than the Avengers and Incredibles, and I did enjoy Incredibles.
I think
But Incredibles villain was so bad. You know, guys, about me and my villains. But
Well, that villain's right up your alley.
Incredibles needs.
Eric's starting to pulpit
I
panel.
know. And the only thing Incredibles needs really is a arch nemesis. That's the word I want. They need an arch nemesis.
I thought that was the first one. No, I haven't seen
First one,
The
yeah.
Incredibles. I need to catch up
Right,
on
you
all
are
movies.
killing us.
You're back. You're like
I'm back,
You
and I
need to
haven't
go-
seen any movies.
Killing us, Brett.
So that's my rant about Jurassic World.
I honestly
But-
think so. I enjoyed the film, and I sat down, and it was a good time. And I left the theater. I don't usually feel this way about movies, but I left the theater thinking I wouldn't mind seeing that movie again. It was fun to watch. But it's not a perfect movie.
No, it's
as
not a
far
perfect
as far as
movie.
movie making is concerned, as far as what you'd expect from such a high budget movie for the writing and the character development, a lot of it wasn't there. A lot of the characters were not developed, and they didn't have a story arc at all. It was basically
No.
the IT guy was pretty much
IT
Jar Jar Binks,
The
but
IT
not.
I wanted him
as-
dead at the beginning. The first time I saw him, I was like, I hope this guy dies. He needs to die.
And like, I mean, first off, he was just
Yeah.
annoying, and he was trying to be comic relief, but it wasn't working.
No. Chris
no
Pratt
one liked him.
should be the comic relief in
Yeah.
these movies.
I think Chris Pratt always just plays himself in movies. I think.
yeah,
Following
they
a
did
grand
need
American
him.
tradition there for movie making, you have those.
I would
those
love to see Chris
personalities.
Pratt as
Personality
Indiana
actors.
Jones. I've decided.
He could do a good Indiana Jones.
I think
He's got the personality for
yeah.
it.
He's like it's similar to Harrison Ford in that regard, where Harrison Ford's characters are all very similar because that he plays a certain character.
Yeah, he's
Character actor.
typecast pretty much.
Yeah. Although
I wouldn't say Harrison Ford is a really great actor, to be honest. I mean, he's really good. Like, don't get me wrong here.
He has
send
charm,
the hate
though.
mail to
His-
geeknerdtangent at
He has
gmail.com.
charm. You watch.
He does, but his acting, like, it's not that great. I mean, if you watch him in Ender's Game, or if you watch him in some of these movies where he's not his iconic self, like Han Solo or Indiana Jones, and even the more recent Indiana Jones,
Or
he
the
was phoning
Tom
it in.
Clancy movies, the Clear and Present Danger and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Patriot Games.
He's not a bad actor, but he's not like he's no Tom Hanks or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
it's
He's not a
true.
versatile actor.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not
You
a
couldn't imagine him
versatile
on screen
actor.
playing this dramatic role and having emotion and you know, like having a cry scene.
Well, I think there are movies where he has attempted different things, and like he was in the remake of Sabrina or something.
Yeah,
like
I was
that.
thinking that's the movie I was thinking.
and
of
that's
how
totally
He was
His-
Indiana Jones in
his
that movie.
charm.
he was Indiana
He
Jones.
was
in
was
that.
Indiana Jones from the Last Crusade in that movie. That's what he was.
I liked his charm in Sabrina. I remember watching it a few years ago. I'm like, wow, this is a good show.
It was a fine show. So Harrison Ford has his place in Hollywood.
Yeah, he does.
I don't deny that, and he has some of the most iconic
And he
moments in
did
film
an
ever.
awesome job.
I just like his
he
old
did a
man.
great job.
His
But
angry old man stuff now.
as far as acting, I don't know that he's that versatile of an actor.
No, I don't think so either. Because if you watch, he's sort of like, what's his name? I'm horrible with names. Keep talking, guys.
Keep talking. Oh, he's. Yeah. Well, let's just make this official on what we're doing.
Yeah, let's get to it. Sorry, we went on a rant.
And there's Indiana Jones.
Oh, the character
cracking the
who's
whip.
always the same is Jason Statham. That guy has no
You mean
personality.
Statham?
Yeah, Statham. Yeah, he's.
No, it's true.
Everything.
I mean, I
you're
think
like,
even The Rock is kind of that way.
No,
The-
Rock has
The Rock's,
personality.
well, he does have his own. That's true. He has his own personality, but it doesn't really change from movie to movie. He's always just The Rock.
It's the movie star.
Yeah.
That this has been going on for a long time, where there are those actors, and they do within their little niche in their thing. They can
have their
do-
place.
They have their place, but they're not.
They're money makers.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
yeah.
Everyone's gonna go see Dwayne The Rock
That's
Johnson.
why Rampage needed
Yeah,
Dwayne The Rock Johnson to be in it,
And
or
what's-
else no one would see it.
skyscraper.
Just him. I'm gonna climb this skyscraper to save my family.
It's basically Taken, but cheesier and with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Or
I'm
more
gonna
like-
see it.
Or Die Hard, because
That's-
it's another self-contained giant fluid movie.
There's your laugh track, Eric.
Eric requested a laugh track today.
We should have a laugh track. I wish I just could walk around with a laugh track and be like, "How you people doing?" and then put a laugh track. And
So, Eric, I think if you go see Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, it's not Lost Kingdom, it's Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah. Oh.
If you go see it again, I think you may be a little more aware of some of its flaws.
probably
The second time around, sometimes the original magic is worn off, and then you it's more transparent, perhaps, and those things bother you a little bit more.
like Episode 3. Of Star
Episode 3
Wars.
was I thought you were talking Jurassic Park 3.
Jurassic.
That's the worst one.
Yeah, it is.
I think it is.
Alan.
But I
He's
like Jurassic
sleeping.
Park 3 more than Jurassic Park 2. But I'm alone in my we had that discussion
We did.
on an earlier
I
episode.
think I would like to discuss the moral implications of the movie. I mean, in real life, that can't. I mean, the problem about movies is they throw these moral things in, and you're like, in real life, this would not happen. Like with the Joker would have been killed by now by the police or the government, but no, they're like, let's retaliate and throw him in Arkham. And Batman, yeah, of course, Batman, his thing is not killing, but the moral implications with Gotham are horrible. In real life, we wouldn't put up with half of that stuff.
Okay, what's your point with Fallen Kingdom?
When she pushes that button, you're like, at first I thought Claire was like, yes, she didn't do it. She didn't release the dinosaurs. Spoilers. And you're like, yes, finally, a movie that
Sorry, Brad.
doesn't
Spoiler alert after you spoil it. Isn't
take
that
the
greatest?
initiative. And I thought, and then that girl pushes it, and you're like, no, why did you do that? Now the whole world's going to be rampaged with dinosaurs, and I would be ticked if I heard that. I would be mad. I'd be like, no, dude, you did not just mic drop me with dinosaurs.
Okay.
It's called Jurassic World.
Okay.
Not Jurassic
They're
Island.
turning the world into Jurassic, more than Jurassic, because it
Yeah.
covers several different
Should have listened to Ian
dinosaur.
Malcolm and let him die on the island.
Yeah.
That was his position.
So that's my
basically.
frustration with it.
He just said, if, Mother Nature wants to take care of him, let Mother Nature take care of him.
And I liked his
So,
thing about
so
it. And
from what I'm hearing from you guys, not seeing it, is there a button that releases
There's a
dinosaurs
button.
on the world? Like,
Basically,
I'm like,
because
okay, release dinosaurs into the world.
the dinosaur,
Every continent, everywhere. Push the button.
the dinosaurs get
We
kidnapped.
are now definitely dinosaur world.
Which I don't understand why the water dinosaurs and the pterodactyls didn't get off the island anyway.
Oh, well, that's the thing. All the way back to Jurassic Park 3, when they're like flying away in the helicopter at the end, off the island, and then they're like looking out the window and seeing the pterodactyls flying around.
Oh, does
And-
that happen in Jurassic
Park 3, and they're like, where are those things going? I'm sure they can fly a great distance. And are they gonna just like end up in someone's backyard
Pretty much.
eating their dog or something? Like,
Jurassic World or Jurassic Lost World.
yeah.
See, as an 11-year-old kid, this is probably why I give that one more credit, is because as an 11-year-old kid, I watched it. And to me, it was a lot of fun as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
To see that movie.
I think seeing these movies as a young person is the ideal thing.
Right.
Like, and they, these movies are being made for a wide audience, and this is the kind of movie that I like to see because it is for that. It encompasses a lot of different people, and it's not like just like the artsy fartsy person who's just seeing this, or it's like this is just for adults.
Hey,
So I
I
guess
like the artsy fartsy.
I don't like artsy fartsy.
I know you don't, because
boring.
you like two-dimensional nonsense.
I
Just
try.
because it's boring doesn't mean it's not perfect and beautiful and good.
And I
Yeah,
think,
but movies should be there to entertain.
I think you
There's
guys
more than one purpose for movies.
you guys are approaching things at. I know there's common ground here, but you're approaching things at the opposite of things. Matt's looking for the perfect movie and analyzing it, and Eric's on the other spectrum where he's like, just like, how did I feel? Just
Yeah,
and
I'm
that's
all
all
about
it
Some
is.
popcorn.
I'm all
Yeah.
about the movie, the feeling.
I'm the one that always eats popcorn.
Yeah, Matt always is like, oh shoot, I gotta go get my popcorn, and he leaves almost before the movie's starting. You're like, hurry.
That was like once when we saw Isle of Dogs. Usually I get it first.
So the question, I guess, to wrap up my whole Jurassic World thing, should movies reflect the moral implications of in the real world?
Well, yeah, it's just something that art does in general, but it doesn't need to be on the nose or anything. But
I wouldn't call this movie art necessarily.
but it is those the animators that had to animate all those dinosaurs,
in,
all
in
that
that
stuff.
aspect, yeah, that's
Yeah.
art. But the movie itself as a whole, I wouldn't say it's artistic. It's an entertainment movie completely.
And then
And
there's
I'm not
like,
saying art can entertain. I'm just saying in this case,
or can
I don't think
entertainment
it's-
be art? Are you saying that entertainment can't be art sometimes?
No, I think it can. I think it can be art. I'm just saying in this case, I don't think it's artistic really.
But every movie is art. I mean, the whole medium is an art. I mean, when you look at an awful painting, you're like, oh, that's an awful painting, but it's still art.
More or less, I guess.
I guess,
in a
yeah,
strict
I guess
definition.
we need to define what I mean by art, I guess, but I don't necessarily have that definition
But the
offhand.
Jurassic Park movies are always there's a message in there that
A message that's not really relevant to us, though, because we
Yeah.
don't have genetic capabilities right now. We don't have the ability to do these things.
But like, yeah, and that's the thing. But the idea that if you had the ability to do something in science or whatever, do you just do it, or do you think, should you, like Malcolm
do it
says in
'cause
the
you
first
can.
one, do you do it because you can? Do you think should I do this?
never stop to think if you should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
that's
I'm not-
the main theme.
So there are some themes in there, but I'm just saying you could symbolically look at those to our life, but there's no direct.
Yeah, I guess I would agree.
There's no
with that,
direct application from these movies to our current existence, I don't think. Symbolically, there is, I guess, which is fine. But I don't know. I wouldn't call this movie an artistic movie. If the, yeah, it's just one you go see for
No,
fun.
it's a good popcorn flick.
And
I'm
it is
not
fun.
saying it's
and I
it's a
think people
grand-
should see it. I'm not ragging on it as much as you think I am. I just
Yeah,
think honestly,
no.
as far as like they could have made a better movie, and they could have made a movie that
Yeah, they
stood
could have
more
made
on
it
its own.
tighter, and there's
They
some
could
dialogue.
They could have made a movie that had all of the characters get developed, and not that IT guy, man, he just like ruined this movie.
Yeah.
He's so bad. But no, overall fun movie. Go see it. But considering the budget they had, and considering the actors that they had, and considering the writers that they should have had, this movie could have been better, and it could have been more interesting. It could have been.
Do you think that this movie and other movies that are out now rely on past movies too much, or rely on nostalgia?
Yeah, they do.
That was my biggest gripe with this movie. Like, we don't need to see the raptor toenail tap on the ground. That worked so well in the first movie. Let it go. Like,
Well, I know.
stuff like that. I mean, it's everywhere, Eric. If you know that first movie,
I do know the
it is
first
throughout
movie.
the
I just-
entire movie. There's these little tiny things, and it's just like the biggest eye roll to me when they can't just stand on their own and make their own iconic movies and have their own imagination.
But I think that this movie suffers in general just as the fact their motivation to make the movie and the whole foundation of it might have an issue.
Yeah, the foundation of it, sure, but I mean, you could still make it its own thing, right? Your sequel doesn't have to rely on that first movie so much. You can tie back to it by all means. Like, the story should relate, and there should be a cohesive story arc throughout all of the movies, which I don't know if there is or not.
Well, I'm excited to see it. You guys have piqued my interest because of just
You should see it. It's
back
fun.
and forth
It's
on
a
it.
Fun movie to go watch.
And
it's
I know
my
that-
second favorite Jurassic Park movie.
and I've liked all the Jurassic Park movies more or less. It's
Jurassic Park 3 is terrible.
Alan.
Although it's nice to have Dr. Grant back.
Dr. Grant
Alan.
It was the best part of that movie.
And the whole back there's just going, Alan.
Anyway,
All right.
let's
That's
move
my
on,
rant.
guys.
Okay.
But yeah, so me and Eric very much disagree with that. I gave it a C+. What did you give it, Punk?
I want to give a B. At least a B.
A B. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. As long as you're not saying it's like an A+.
No, not at all.
Because it's not. There's some
no, there
flaws.
isn't. I mean, I felt it was a B.
I think I just rolled my eyes maybe like 50% more than you did, maybe. And so that's maybe why I'm giving it a C+ rather than a B.
Yeah.
Because I rolled my eyes from knowing that original movie so well, perhaps.
I mean, I was looking at trying to find stuff on about reviewing movies and if there's a list. And I came across some, and maybe we should try and find a list. And then next time we review a movie and see what parts of the movie hit, and then
And have like a criteria.
yeah,
We have our own
criteria.
list and maybe
And-
personal things from each one of us because each one of us has different tastes.
Very much. Yeah.
Because I don't know what it takes to review a movie. I mean, I'm just a casual movie guy. I didn't study movies or anything. And so, I mean, I don't know if your grade could be perfect. It could be, and it should be a C. And mine could be a little higher. And
Or it could
grading
be
on
an
the curve.
A and Eric could absolutely not like it and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. One thing
I don't know what.
one thing I just thought of. Did you ever see Dead Poets Society?
It's been a long time, but yeah, I've seen it.
I've probably seen that movie as much as I've seen Jurassic Park. But there's this scene in it where Robin Williams is this English teacher in this school. And he comes in, and obviously he's kind of the system disruptor, right? They have this thing going in this private school, and he comes in, and he's trying to teach kids to think for themselves and all that. But he has this scene where there's a book of poetry, essentially, and in the beginning, he reads the introduction by Dr. J. Evans Pritchard, Ph.D., and they go into it, and they start to read it, and he draws this graph of the poetry or whatever, and there's a kind of a scale that you can use to say whether or not the poem was truly great or if it's just somewhat great but lacking depth or whatever it may be. And then he surprises all the students by telling them to rip it out of the book.
Yeah, that's the
right?
only part I've seen in the movie.
Oh man, this movie is.
I know, I should.
Yeah.
I mean,
You should see it.
I don't know. I mean, it's not entertainment factor, Eric,
Yeah,
but it's one of
I
the
know.
greats.
I
It's
mean,
really
they
one of the
show.
greats.
I saw it in high school. Like my English teacher showed it to us. So
As they should.
And then
It's a good flick. I mean, it's
failed
not.
a quarter of that.
I think it's kind of like an 80s PG rating.
Oh,
So
for
it's-
content wise, yeah. If you're worried
There's-
about content,
There's a little bit of language, and there's a weird scene when he pulls out like
there's the
center-
magazine,
a
the centerfold. Yeah.
thing. So, but anyway, overall, the movie's really excellent. And my point was, we got to rip out that convention, I think, sometimes, because when you're looking at art or an art medium, whether or not you consider it to be artful or not is another thing. That's a personal opinion, but I think a lot of it is personal. And a lot of the art it comes from your own background and your own experience, and you're giving things ratings because of what it makes you feel, like Eric said, or because of certain things. And not to say there aren't formulaic things to them, not to say you couldn't correct something or, there shouldn't be some story development, because things can be flat and boring if you don't do that. But I do think that if you have a checklist, I think that you run into problems of it being too formulaic. But I don't think these things were ever meant to be like that.
The thing is,
I mean, film critics though have to have some form of criteria.
well, film critics are a unique set of people because they're not the ones making the movies. They're not the one. They're reviewing them, and some of them are being paid to review them, and some of them take on a different approach. Some are always negative, some are always positive, some have, and so they all have their own opinions, and you can, but they all each have their own way of doing things, and it's good to read them because.
Yeah, I mean, I try and read a whole bunch of them.
But you got to always take it with a grain of salt. But if you notice a movie is being panned by a bunch of critics, that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to not like it. Because there's a lot of movies that people hate that the critics don't like that I actually love, like Nacho Libre. You look at the critic, and I just love that movie.
Or there's the opposite too, like The Last Jedi, where 97% of critics gave it a positive score. But 46% of the audience liked it.
Yeah.
There's a very big discrepancy both ways sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just up to you whether or not, what you agree with. But as far as critiquing a movie, I mean, there are some things you look for in general. You look for, the overall story arc, the crafting. You look for the dialogue. You look for the acting. You look for how the music fits. There's different elements that you look, but when it comes down to it, it's still pretty opinionated. Because you could say so-and-so did a terrible job acting. Someone else could say, oh, I really loved that performance, right? And there are some standards where everyone is going to be like, oh, wow, that was a really good performance. Almost everyone.
I think ultimately, if we look at the movies that stand like the test of time, that people go back to and watch over and over again, there's something special about those. And sometimes it just has to do with what age people are when they watch movies. When you're talking about
Star Wars,
mainstream movies like Star Wars and stuff like that, Indiana Jones even, and all those movies from the 80s that all the directors now and all the producers now and the studios want to remake because of this nostalgic factor for all those people who are paying money. So, like, I feel like that's kind of like with Jurassic World and bringing Jurassic Park back, because they could have just left it alone. Could have just been 3 movies, but they bring it back. They bring Star Wars back. They bring Bill and Ted back. Everything is ultra nostalgic now, and I don't know. It's good in one way, and then it's bad in another way. I don't know if nostalgia has good purpose. It has its place, but it can be
overused.
It can be overused and used to the detriment of a bunch of different movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Topic
If you play the
about.
nostalgic card too much, your movie's not standing on its own.
No,
and
movies need.
That was one of my biggest
Incredibles
gripes
2.
with Fallen Kingdom. I didn't think Incredibles 2 was like that at all.
No, I mean, I've been saying Incredibles 2 will stand on its own.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they didn't
Gotcha.
do this. They just were like, we have our story. We're going to continue it. We don't need to go back to the first one.
That's an interesting sequel they have there, which I haven't seen. But the fact that it took
great.
so long, but yet it doesn't pick up right at where the other one ends.
It picks up,
does.
but it doesn't go back. It doesn't reference anything in the first movie, and so it's
Syndrome.
I don't know if it doesn't reference anything.
Is Syndrome gone? Like that? He's like the villain from the other one.
Yeah, they never talk about him or anything.
They talk about some other stuff. I mean, there's some stuff from the first movie that's key to the plot, like her going to the movie with that kid.
Oh yeah,
There's some stuff that comes into play from the other movies. There's some throwbacks, like what's the Freeze guy's name?
Frozone.
Frozone.
Frozone. Yeah.
Frozone. Yeah,
Samuel L. Jackson.
So yeah, when his wife's always yelling to him.
Yeah, that's I love that.
I love that part, and they do it in this movie too.
Sort of
and
like
it's great.
Big Bang Theory. Howard, come in here. I would hate
Silence.
that.
All right.
You
So
should put a laugh track there.
while I was gone, you guys. Now, which one of you saw? Did you both see the
Yeah,
We went together.
the
and
documentary?
Eric.
What documentary
he
was
saw
this?
a documentary with me.
Yeah, it was good. We saw the "Won't You Be My Neighbor" documentary about Mr.
He
Rogers.
saw a movie not for entertainment purposes.
It was very well done, a documentary.
Oh, good.
Brett, I feel like
Tell me about it.
I feel a little sad right now because I wish you had seen some of these things. I'm not trying to guilt you or anything.
I will.
No. I mean, you've been busy. I mean, that's fine.
It'd be nice if you.
I need to
If
prioritize.
you can catch up, that'd be great. If you can't,
I'll catch up.
catch it on. I mean, like Isles of Dogs is coming on DVD soon, so I'll go and rent it and I'll watch it and then I can talk about it.
That is one random sounding laugh track. There's like you got all kinds of different.
Yeah,
things.
it's not even it's not cohesive at all. What can you do?
Matt,
All right,
tell us about
so-
the documentary. You're better at explaining things than me.
I don't know.
So the documentary is about the
that.
life or the career or what is it? His whole life or his career? What's
It's
it
about the show, about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I mean, I wanted to be more about Fred Rogers, but it was nice to see about the show and what it did for people and why Fred did it. Because Fred was against TV, but
wasn't against TV. He was against what was on TV at
Yeah.
the time.
And-
It was just nonsense, like people throwing pies in people's faces. He just didn't see a lot of dignity in what was on the television
Yeah,
at the
that's-
time. And he saw it just being kind of scary or undignified.
and then he's like, children. And then he just like, children need to be told what's going on in the world. And that's what he did. And his whole thing was all about children, just being frank with them and saying, look, the world's scary. You don't need to be scared. You're going to feel things. And that was his purpose of his show, was just to help children deal with their feelings.
Yeah, it was to deal with feelings. I think was the foundational aspect of the show, and he mentions that, and it does show a little bit of his life and how he was as a
Yeah.
child, how when he would feel angry or he would feel sad or a negative, I guess what we call negative emotions, he would feel kind of guilty about it.
Yeah,
And
I guess his parents wouldn't let him
Yeah,
feel
his
things.
parents were
It was
kind
that
of,
time where feelings weren't.
and not to say that time is gone. It's not.
Yeah, no.
But he wanted kids to realize that everyone experiences emotions. It's normal to do that. And what do you do with those emotions when you experience them? So it's normal to feel angry, but then what do you do? Or it's normal to feel frustrated, but what do you do? So I thought it was a cool thing, you know. And
there was no narrator. It was just interviewing people who've been on the show, interview his wife, even his children. That was fun to see his children talk
There were
about.
they were brief glimpses of them.
Yeah.
So the format of this documentary is just interviews.
yeah.
There's
It's
no
interviews. Yeah, there's
Clips.
interviews, but you see clips of the TV show. You see historical clips, like the JFK assassination, and how they do a whole episode on.
When did that show start? When did he start
in the
his show?
60s.
In the 60s.
Yeah, it was 60s.
So he started it at just a smaller station, and then he wanted. I can't remember exactly how it went, but he started on public broadcasting, but they were going to cut the funding. So he went and testified before
Congress.
Skeptical Congress, and pretty much he's responsible for PBS being in existence today.
Still sticking around.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
He basically, after he was done talking, the guy was like, "I think you just got your 20 million." You know,
Yeah.
it's a really, really cool story, and just a cool man. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. It's a worthwhile documentary. It's uplifting. It's positive. It's nice to see a good role model in today's world, because they're few and far in between. You know, we talk about actors and how funny they are, but they're not role models. You know,
Yeah, they're just
No,
not
and people think they're
entertainers.
role models. They're like have their posters of their role models, and I never thought of actors as role models.
No.
I thought more superheroes were, and I know those are fictional, but
Yeah,
I
they're
never
fictional.
idolized.
Those aren't real, you know.
Yeah,
that, right?
I know. I never idolized any actors or actresses as a child. I was more about the cartoons and the fictional characters that I idolized instead of actors. I never cared about actors.
Oh well, I'll have to. Where did you see this? Did this get a wide release?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
did. Yeah, we actually went to Orem, Utah, and watched it. I thought I'd have to make a trip up to Salt Lake, but they released it more widely.
Yeah, I got finally a wide release, and it was nice. I mean, we were probably the youngest people there.
Oh really?
No,
Yeah.
there was a kid next to us.
Well,
with our parents,
it's a
but-
documentary, and that doesn't
There
tend
was-
to bring a family crowd.
Yeah.
in
No, there
most
was a lot of
cases.
old people, and which was
and
fine.
plus, you know, they're the ones that saw Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, kids
from the
these
beginning,
days
you know.
haven't. They just have to watch Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is kind of annoying.
It's not too bad. It's no Caillou.
Oh, yeah. Talk about annoying PBS
Caillou's
kids.
Caillou's
shows.
the
Caillou.
worst.
Oh,
He's
my
Canadian,
kid.
though. He's not PBS, I don't think.
But didn't PBS pick it up?
They probably did.
Yeah,
But
because it was on. It
Caillou's
was,
horrible. At least Daniel Tiger's
I
doing
always-
something good.
did I mention this before? I always, because I was like in junior high when it came on or whatever. I always thought, oh, is this about a kid with cancer? It's about
because he doesn't have hair.
He doesn't have hair. Like I'm like, what's the catch on
I
this? But it's
ran
just a boring kid.
I have a thing where I see people and they look like different characters. And I think I ran into a kid who looked like Caillou. I was like, that looks like Caillou. And I was surprised I even knew who Caillou was because I never watched it.
He's a horrible child. That's all you need to know is
It's a whiny
He's
kid.
just a
he's
He
horrible-
gets
whiny,
well.
he's
Gets
horrible
all
to his little
way.
sister, and he gets his way, and
Ugh.
he's
That's
awful.
That's a horrible.
That's
sounds like a horrible show for
That's
kids.
what my sister says about Daniel Tiger sometimes.
Daniel Tiger, though, at least it's like
At least
he's
it
feeling
comes
an
from-
emotion, and they sing
Yeah.
a song about how to deal with it, and
It does. It harkens back. Obviously, it's based off of the world,
the make believe.
the make believe world that
I'm glad there's still Daniel
Mr.
Tiger.
Rogers created.
Yeah, it's not a perfect show, but it's no Caillou. Let's just say that.
All right. So, what do you guys recommend it? It sounds like
Yeah. Yeah.
Please go see this movie.
Very
I'm
good.
glad it's doing well as a wide release. Every time, so when we went to see it, the theater was full.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised.
When my wife Chelsea went to see it, the theater was full. She barely got a ticket. I'm so glad that this movie's selling tickets. I want people to go see this positive movie. I want it to make money so they keep doing things like
Are you
this.
guys excited about the biopic? Isn't there a biopic?
Yeah,
coming
there-
out
Tom
for
Hanks.
Tom Hanks playing
Yeah,
Mr.
I am.
Rogers.
And it's going to be interesting because I think because they interviewed a reporter because the movie's going to be about a reporter who's skeptical about Mr. Rogers, about Fred, about what his motives are. And there was a reporter they interviewed talked about he went undercover, and I think it probably will be more about this story about he went undercover, was an investigating story about who this man was, and he came back so positive. He's like, wow, this man really is doing something to change the world. And I think that's what this story, that movie is going to be about, is about this reporter trying to find flaws in the show, but knowing that
Well,
comes back.
hopefully the biopic is good. Biopics are hit and miss, and sometimes they make them entertaining in spite of what actually happened, and sometimes they make what actually happened
Right, they twist
twisted in where,
yeah.
and because it's hard to make a biopic that actually makes an entertaining movie sometimes.
It is. You end up focusing on things that weren't really there sometimes to make it more dramatic, or you end up inserting things, hopefully not, that just simply didn't happen.
Yeah,
Which is the entire Greatest Showman movie.
yeah, that's the entire Greatest
That
Showman
wasn't
movie,
that
but
wasn't supposed to be a biopic.
it
Why
was.
did you make it about this man that really existed?
And that's the interesting
I
thing
think
about
they
that
just
is that it was.
liked the idea of a man who came about, did the American dream.
I don't think the biopic should be a musical. Once you hit musical, you hit fantasy, in my mind, in many ways. And then I think you can tell an interesting story and hearken and teach. Like Newsies is probably the best example of kind of a biopic. They took elements from history in Newsies and made a story around the paper, what are they called?
Newspaper.
The newspaper boys strike, and made a musical out of it, but it wasn't telling the exact story of someone. So that is a weakness of, you could say, of The Greatest Showman. But The Greatest Showman is in that style where it's just like, we are going to take a historical character and make a musical out of it. And
Right. I just would have bought it a lot more had they just done it completely fiction, because I don't want to watch something about someone when the information is completely inaccurate.
I saw
completely
this show
skewed.
as just complete fiction. I never thought about this is going to be about.
The thing is, though, that it wasn't, though. It was about a real person.
Yeah,
It wasn't just fiction.
No.
It was very distorted.
maybe you would
reality.
call it on the lines of some sort of historical fantasy fiction type thing.
Maybe
yeah,
they need
if that's
to
what you
even
want to call
draw.
it, that's fine.
But a lot of, yeah, it's interesting. Well, Matt and I had an off-the-air discussion
We
about
did.
that.
It's recorded.
It's recorded. I just need to find it. It has a lot of tangents. It'd have to do a lot of editing on it.
Give us money and we'll post it.
Not that it's worth hearing.
You can always send donations to us if you want the show to be better.
No, you can't.
You can send donations
No,
to
you,
us.
you literally can't. We don't have a means of getting
yeah,
donations.
yeah, that's. We don't have.
They could figure out a way.
I guess we need to set up like an LLC.
No one
and
is
get
going to send us donations, man. We have like no one that cares about the show
You
yet.
think we could pass as a nonprofit organization?
I think our moms care about the show.
Yeah, they do.
Hey, moms, give us some money so we can get better.
They've given us enough.
Yeah. We don't need to go there.
No, that's true.
Man. So,
TV, huh?
no, just kidding. It's not that. What?
What the trash?
What? No.
Let's just end the show.
We're just gonna end the show on that note.
No. I recommended the topic of TV, but I don't actually have.
We haven't got in. Honestly, we've kind of gone off on a real big tangent.
I was
Yeah.
going to segue into the documentary about Mr. Rogers and TV, but it never. Because I was thinking, like, no, let's talk about TV because with with the junk on TV, but then how much we love TV and
The reason why I kind of want to bring up the topic of TV is that we haven't necessarily talked a lot
we
about
haven't talked about TV.
our TV shows and kind of get nostalgic. I know we were kind of negative on nostalgia, but talk about some nostalgic things because we've had a lot of off-air conversations about like Ghost Rider, speaking of PBS, and other weird things,
I've talked about Ghost Rider on the show before.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, now I'm remembering. Man, we've hit so well, and then we missed last week, and I'm like, it's like I'm starting a new podcast. How do you do this?
What is this thing?
Is this?
I've been thinking a lot about this TV, how much time we watch TV, but really, we love the movie. I was thinking, like, do we love TV more or the movies? But then I think about my characters on TV. I'd rather see them on the big screen. And I walk away and I'm like, oh, I just saw the Ninja Turtles on the big screen, and that was just so awesome. Or I saw Power Rangers. I still like Power Rangers, the movie from the 90s, because their costumes are all chic and cool, and they just had a bigger budget. And you just...
So you're talking strictly nostalgic stuff right now from your childhood, right?
Yeah, I mean, just any... I would rather see a movie about Transformers on the big screen. I mean, just when
That's
something...
still childhood. You're still in your childhood.
Just when...
I think
maybe, I don't know what
an
it's
example?
about.
that's okay.
No, it's fine. I'm just wondering if like you're...
yeah.
I guess...
I'm just trying to see if you're generalizing or
No,
if you're just
I'm more
talking
generalizing
specific.
because TV tells such great stories.
What's
and
an
you can
example of
tell
something today that you'd like to see on the big screen?
something today that I would love to see on the big screen?
'Cause so far you've said Ninja Turtles, Transformers.
So you
Okay,
want
old
to
stuff.
So a TV to movie translation? Are you talking about like just a whole another remake? Oh, here's a movie based off those characters, or are you talking about like, oh, we're gonna continue the story that's in the TV show
Okay,
on
I'll
the big
use
screen, or both?
I'll use 24. 24 tells this long story. I think they could make an awesome movie of 24 on the big screen. And I think that would be cool because you have a bigger budget, you have a bigger thing, and that's what. But something about how much time we spend watching TV, but when you still go to the movies, you're still awed by the movie, even though you can just sit at home and watch random stuff.
Let me ask you this. If you're just sitting browsing Netflix or flipping through channels, what is it about a TV show that will get you to watch it? What is it about a TV show that sucks you in? Or for you specifically, I don't mean in general. I mean, what is something you will watch and you know that you'll enjoy sitting down watching it?
There has to be
Like,
some.
I'm going to watch this.
Well, just picking something, you can just say, I just find the genre or something that sounds interesting from the description or seeing a trailer or a commercial.
And I guess a follow-up question to that, what keeps you there?
Once you watch the episode, there has to be something that surprises you in a positive, in a way that makes, and just speaking feeling wise, like Eric style, you have to have that, oh, I was entertained and that was surprisingly good. Like watching the X-Files, I never watched it as a kid, but then as an adult, I watched it and I'm like, wow, I like these characters. the character is relatable, and the strange things that happen. The story, maybe each story in the X-Files episode, they're left open ended because they can't solve everything, or they defeat the monster, but then in some of the older episodes, he's typing on his computer, talking about the philosophical implications of what happened and everything like that. But that's one of my favorite TV shows, and I think it's because of the characters, because it's character driven, but also there's events that are just happening to take that character and put them into interesting situations. I don't know. That's kind of a generalization and doesn't really make sense, but I think it's like most stories, it's all on the character. Do you like these characters? I like the show Castle.
Oh yeah, Castle.
Because I like Castle as a character. That's a character that I enjoy watching. Nathan Fillion was really entertaining. So I think it has to do with, for me, a character that I kind of can relate with. I don't like watching, also with TV shows, I tend to not watch the overdramatic stuff where people are having difficult family situations and stuff like that, because that's just too awkward for me. I'd rather see something that's fantastic and unrealistic, because I'm always looking for more of an escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I watch a lot of dramas. I mean, I've been really.
I thought you didn't like drama.
No, I mean, I like the dramas on TV. Like, I've been watching Madam Secretary, Designated Survivor,
Madam
and
Secretary's
Madam
pretty good.
Secretary, talk about characters.
Yeah.
You like those characters
Yeah,
and
you
that
do.
whole family and the way they, like that has
I
good
like
characters
her.
in it.
I like
I've been
her.
watching a lot of political.
I like
shows
I like her
lately.
husband,
Yeah.
and
He's a nice guy. The daughter's really annoying, or the older daughter.
yeah. Oh yeah. That character is.
She's like,
But
you have not the hardest life.
I
ever.
watched Parenthood. That was pretty dramatic. I
That's
enjoyed
like-
it. And Gilmore Girls.
That's quintessential dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, Gilmore Girls. I mean, I liked Gilmore Girls up to a point, and then they did some weird stuff.
But let me ask you though, like, what? Say you've never heard of a TV show.
Okay.
What would get you to watch it though? What would keep you there?
Okay, I'm trying to think of a TV show. Okay, Grimm. That was a show. Me and my wife, we just were like, we need a new show. So we just, I mean, I've seen some stuff about it. It looked interesting. We just went and bought the DVD on set, and we watched the first episode. And I heard it was about fairy tale things, because Once Upon a Time came out at the same time, and really, Grimm was just about monsters. It really had nothing to do with fairy tales or anything. And we watched the first episode, and we were like, whoa, this is intriguing. And then more we watched it, the characters were more intriguing, and we're like, this is a fun show. And we were like, hopefully more Grimm comes out. And then we were sad when it got canceled, and they finished the whole story, but we were still like, oh man, they're just going to cancel it. This is a good show. And I think it was just because we were just wanting a fun show, and we heard about that it was a fun show about monsters.
Yeah, I think for me, if I ever hear a show is canceled, I won't even give it the time of day, which is a little sad.
Yeah,
I know, but
Because they're
usually like that.
Fox canceled a lot of good shows over the years.
I want to see something through the end if I start it.
Oh yeah. Well, you've watched a lot of TV shows all the way through because of being able to binge it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you like Breaking Bad and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think for me, answering my own question, something that's going to get me there. So TV is such an investment of time.
It is.
Oh yeah.
It's an
That's
investment
why
of time.
I don't really watch TV these days. It
yeah,
takes too
if
much
you
time.
if you don't have a good show, then you're just wasting your life away,
Yeah.
right? So honestly, this is a little different for me with movies. I just like to go see any movie pretty much because I like to learn what makes it good and what
And it
makes
has a
bad.
complete story. I mean, you can just watch it. It's like, okay, 2 hours. You had fun. You told at least it should tell a full
Yeah,
story.
Yeah, no,
But there are times though when you want if you like this universe, you want to live in it longer, right?
Yeah.
So you want more of it, and you want to experience that longer. And I think for me, something that gets me in a TV show is if I've heard good things about it. That's one of the things that gets me there. And that may be superficial, but to invest my time in a TV show, I need something that's really going to get me there. Mm-hmm. And I need to know that it's a good show. I need to know that there's other people that I respect that have enjoyed the show as well. And that gets me there to really start it. Because I don't watch a ton of TV.
Do you feel that with TV you need to have some sort of, because of the investment of time, what you're saying is there needs to be some sort of vetting process in a way where it's like, okay, there needs to be talk about it. It can't just like jump into any old TV show.
No, I mean,
there needs to be people that you would trust their opinion, or just general in the buzz that's out there.
I think I agree with that about the buzz, because I think about Chuck. I was looking for a new TV show, and my sister-in-law, you would love Chuck. It's about this guy who can do, and he's nerdy, and he does these cool stuff, and I watched it. I'm like, I love this show.
It's a fun show.
And Chuck
Zachary Levi is so charming.
Yeah,
he really is.
It was a fun show, and it was amazing how that show was able to get saved. You watch, like, everyone's eating Subway after a while because Subway was the show that sponsored it.
Yeah. And I honestly, I think the hype and the buzz is really what gets me there the most. And excuse me, there are some people that if they're hyped about something, I'm like, okay, that's definitely something I don't want to watch, because I don't trust them as people that enjoy good television. They're just, if they're like, oh, Once Upon a Time is the best. It's the best thing I've ever watched. I'm going to be like, I'm not trusting anything you've ever said, because that show was not.
I watched all the way through except for the last season, but I still it was cringeworthy. I had a hard time getting through it.
Right.
Once Upon a Time.
Oh, Once Upon a Time. Oh, yeah.
It really
or is it just called Once?
It's called Once Upon a Time.
Okay.
Well, they always just because that's a long name, then you would just see once. And then,
Yeah.
I think Upon a Time was inside the O or something really small.
Uh-huh.
I'm just remembering those images on the TV.
And I think for Breaking Bad, you mentioned that. And that was one that I had heard about here and there through time. But I kept hearing about it. And I kept having people say, this is the best show I've ever seen. I kept hearing people say that. And I was like, oh, wow. So how can a show be that good? And so I was like, okay, I need to invest some time into the show and figure out why it's good. And it's not in the, I guess, type of shows that normally I would watch. It's more of a mature TV show. It's not like it has all sorts of crazy mature content in it. But it deals with real life in a drug scene pretty much. So, you're going to get exposed to what the drug world looks like.
All that criminal.
Some of that criminal aspect of things. It can get a little dark sometimes.
Because you deal with murders, not just drug dealing, and drug creation and all those underground deals. I haven't seen it, but the setting and the idea of
and I love
that
the setting
environment
in New Mexico is so fun to see, and the direction is so great. You just get these visions of New Mexico, and you get these different camera angles that you never see in normal shows because they're taking more of an artistic take, even though it's so entertaining. It's both. It's one of those great examples. But Breaking Bad was one of those things I wasn't gonna really give it time of day, but I kept hearing about it, so I gave it that time, and it was. It's true. It's one of the best shows ever written for TV, and it's worth the investment of time. And it's just so the writing in it is what makes it special, because they don't do superficial things like a lot of shows. Like, oh, we said so and so died, but let's bring him back for this. Like Darth Maul, or anything like that. They don't do superficial things. They write the story that they're writing. And they take it one season at a time, and they bring these characters. I mean, they had this overall thought: what if we took this ultra good shy guy and brought him to this point of being a villain? And that was the purpose of the film. But how they got there, they took it kind of season by season. And it was super interesting.
And that's what I think makes good TV, is when they have the whole show plot out.
Lost.
Yeah, Lost. I mean, Lost had. It just lost direction. You're like, where's this show going? And then you rewatch it and you analyze it, and you're like, this show had no.
And by the end, my thing was there was all this all this cool setup for that Dharma organization and all this stuff like that, and in the end, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, nothing really meant anything.
And I'm like, all this the sci-fi setting was taken in a direction that I'm like, this doesn't answer any questions. This is just weird.
Lost was a perfect example of a show that sucks you in with question after question. Every episode leaves you
cliffhanger, heavy cliffhanger,
major, and you have to watch the next episode to figure out, and you still never get your answer. season 6, you still never get your answers. It's a problem, and it's the perfect example of
You don't get that
you
satisfaction.
don't get that payoff at the
Yeah.
end, and
Oh, man.
it ruined the show completely.
A show I
Some
felt
people,
like,
some people loved it. Those people
Yeah,
who like the
that's what I
soap
wanted to
opera
play off.
aspect of the series, because they're Lost had a major like
Oh, it was a
soap opera aspect to it, and the people who liked it for that reason, I think, felt satisfied for some reason. But the
There
people
was so
who
much more to it is the problem.
Yeah. It's
They
more than
kind
just
of
that.
They kind of wrapped that up, but they left out everything. Everything. You don't. What are these two mysterious people laying next to each other with this bag of rocks or whatever?
Yeah.
You don't get any answers to anything. It's just a sad example.
a show, yeah, I like how you said a show needs a good payoff. I think of a show like
gotta have a payoff.
like Alias. Alias only had 5 seasons, and it wrapped up the story so well, and you're like, this didn't need more seasons. And sometimes shows will do that. X-Files, I think, is for one.
Just touch my hand.
They went 2 seasons too long. And some you think, oh, we want more, but then more, sometimes you want less in a show. And that's why movies can be so nice, because you can tell a complete story, and TV shows will just keep dragging on, and you're like,
Yeah, there's some
come
shows
on,
like
just end.
Law and Order or CSI that'll just go on forever.
Yeah, those
they'll
shows-
find
Those-
a way to keep going.
They're procedural.
They're
That's the
procedural,
word.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can do the same thing just over and over and over and over again.
NCIS.
Everything's. I guess each case is new enough that it works for some reason for some people.
But there are in some cases those shows do have character stuff. Like I think of Castle, very procedural. But you get the Castle. Maybe Castle is a show that some people like, some people hated it, but I liked it. And you have that development between him and Beckham or Beckett. Yeah, Beckett. I can't remember the
it's
characters'
Beckett.
names. Beckett, and then eventually they get married and stuff like that. So
Interesting.
And a lot of with TV shows, the first season can be so amazing, like Heroes, and then they just blah, and that's another issue that comes with TV is you do this awesome one series that you tell a good story, and then you're like, how do we continue this story? And That can
one
be-
thing I was thinking of, that the reason Breaking Bad, and I think Better Call Saul is just as good as Breaking Bad, which is a rare thing to have something in the same universe be just as good.
those
A
spin-offs
spin-off.
are
Spin-off be
kind
just-
of weird.
they're-
All the Happy Days spin-offs that
Yeah.
Joni and Chachi.
But one thing I really appreciated is that they're going for a final ending. They've got however many seasons it's going to take, I don't know. But Breaking Bad was 5 seasons, and they wrapped it up perfectly. It was this complete story of Walter White and his transformation, and it was perfect. 5 seasons, you don't need to go anymore. Then they realized, I'm sure they realized before the show ended, that Saul was an interesting character to do a spin-off of. Like, how do you get this sleazy lawyer to this point where he is? Where did this guy come from? And so you do this prequel, or it's basically a prequel.
Okay.
And it's really interesting to see. It's a similar tone when you're taking someone that's good at heart, and then you lead them down this path where they end up as this person. And who knows where they end up in the future? But it's just nice to see writing that's so cohesive, and it all has that payoff in the end, and it's a complete story. You don't need to continue it anymore. And it's done. And I think it's a good example of what the prequels, Star Wars prequels, were trying to do with Anakin. Is you take this good, innocent kid, and then through time things happen to him that causes him to go to the dark side.
And that's the strength of ultimately the strength of a TV show, is that you can take a character through a journey and change them over a long period of time.
Right.
A movie doesn't have that. Just watching a movie, or just even like 3 movies, doesn't even have the luxury of a TV.
Yeah.
But
You have to have such key moments where they're changing.
This
right?
brings up a question in comparison with movies and characters I can't talk today. Movies have an extremely high production value because of the nature of how movies are made. And I think TVs are coming up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they are.
TV shows, I mean, are
Like Game of Thrones.
and I'm excited about that aspect of TV, and especially in the advent of a Star Wars TV show, live action, Jon Favreau. What is that going to be? Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it hits all the right marks and it's
At
new
this point,
enough.
it's got to be good, guys.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
I mean, like with superhero shows these days, I mean, they still look good, but you still want the big production. Those fight scenes. I was watching Supergirl the other day, and just she kind of met this bad guy, just headbutted her. I was like, really? That's it? You could have done some cool fight, but they don't.
And those
that show.
but that is showing the limitation of
Yeah.
production value where they can't do what's in the movie, especially with superhero movies. They can go all out in one movie.
Her flying looks pretty good though, compared to like when you watch Lois and Clark. Back
I
in
like
the
Lois and
90s.
Clark.
That was a good show. It was
And that's a
fun
thing where
still.
they tried to they figured out a way to get around Superman and like not have him be a big action movie, but have it be more of like it
was a romantic comedy.
but like a detective story.
Yeah, it
where
was.
they're
was
solving
great, man.
things, and that's actually aspect of Superman that is missing.
I think it's one of the best Superman adaptations that there's ever been.
Yeah, I love Dean Cain as Superman, and I think Terry Hatcher was probably the best Lois Lane I've ever seen.
No, well, my mind went blank. There's a Lois Lane that I like Amy Adams, but
She's fine,
the
yeah.
problem is
Yeah.
the rest of those movies and what they're giving her to work with. She could be
Yeah.
the most amazing Lois Lane,
Right. She's great. She's
But-
very talented.
Yeah, she
but
is.
you have Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible.
All right, guys.
But yeah, TV's great. It's just a different medium from movies, and I think it's fun to watch it. But for me personally, I need a reason to invest my time in that because I already see enough movies.
And there's so much. I mean, like, there's so much junk though with TV.
It's garbage, man.
There is, and I don't. And here's something: should Netflix be spending so much money on their original content? Do you guys watch any of their original content?
I think that it's like any other. It's just a new direction TV's going. You're
is.
gonna have streaming on demand stuff, and you're gonna be watching original content.
If the original content wasn't always mature content,
Yeah,
'cause it's
I
almost
was noticing
always
that.
it's almost
There's
always
no
adult
family
content.
There's no
not-
family-friendly shows.
There's not family. There's not even
Or
just
the
like,
family friendly shows are hit and miss.
Yeah.
They're like
They
really are.
And why you can make a show for adults that doesn't have a lot of
Nudity,
adult content. Yeah, you don't have to
language.
have nudity. You don't have to have like an F-bomb every 3 minutes or more. You don't have to. You can make a good show. That's what I liked about, and that's what I like currently about Better Call Saul, as it's an adult show, but it doesn't have those things like Game of Thrones.
and you can get a wider audience out of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
I've never watched anything original on Netflix. Really, I mean, I've been watching some of their cooking shows, and I
comedy.
watched Lost in Space, and that was
I've only watched the
hit-
first
hit and
episode.
miss. It was pretty slow, but it was visually amazing. I was like, wow, this is really good quality, and I enjoyed it because it didn't have anything inappropriate in it. It was
Yeah,
just
that's a
this
good
story about
example
this-
of a family show they did.
yeah, and it
And
was
Lost in Space should be that way. It's
it
about
needs-
family,
yeah.
isn't it?
It needs to pick up a little bit. It's kind of dragged. I took a little bit.
Lost
to
in
watch,
Space,
but
the premise is kind of
yeah, and so I'm curious to see
Has
where they'll go
issues,
with
so.
it. But I enjoyed it, but any other original content on Netflix when they like do these movies, like I don't want to sit down and watch one of your original movies. For me, in my mind, if it's on television, it's going to be
Did
low
you watch
budget.
the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sequel?
I did not. I haven't seen the first one.
What?
You haven't seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
No.
Eric is officially fired from the podcast.
Well, let's
So-
rent that because we don't own it. Do you own it, Matt?
I might actually. I might own it.
On VHS?
No, I think it would be a DVD.
It'd be-
So I guess that's an issue I'm having with Netflix right now is this original content. And I'm like, do I
Tiger's so
really
good.
Do you
care
have it?
about it?
For Eric, you might need it dubbed.
Oh no, he always reads subtitles.
Do you read
Yeah, I read
subtitles?
Yeah.
He always got the subtitles on because he doesn't hear. As
I
well.
like watching with subtitles. That's where I finally started
quit touching my
enjoying
hand.
episode 5 of Star Wars because of the subtitles, and I'm like, these droids are funny. I mean, the things they say are so
Episode 5?
subtle. Yeah,
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back. That was my least favorite until I finally got them on DVD and I started watching with subtitles and read what they were saying and just the subtle humor
So you didn't
between
really
the
pick up on 'em
droids.
until you read the subtitles.
Yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
I love having subtitles in movies because you get so much more of
This
the,
would be just pure subtitles, though.
Oh, that's
'Cause it's
fine.
a foreign film.
Yeah,
I
they-
watched.
It's in Chinese.
Yeah, there's
I know
all
Brett's
speaking.
mom had issues with this movie. I remember
did?
that from when we were kids.
Oh, well, there is the weird. There's some scenes in there that
There's
like
one
didn't
weird-
want to have to see.
Scene in a cave, and it's like, why?
Yeah, but it's fantasy
I'd be happy taking
martial
that
arts.
scene out, and then just the rest of the movie is fantastic.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Literally
But-
fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic because it's just crazy.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
That style, I was so confused at that style where they're like jumping through the trees.
And it's
all
that
the roofs.
foreign Chinese style, and you have to. It's something as a Western
Yeah, we're not
views.
exposed.
We're
to
not
that.
exposed to that, where it's like this fantasy martial arts movie, and it was actually awesome to see.
So
I saw it in the
fun.
theater,
So
and I
cool.
was like, "This was fun." It's been a long time. I can hardly remember anything
Eric,
of
the
it.
movie's worth your time. You should check it
I
out.
don't know if the sequel is any good.
The sequel was fine. It wasn't bad. It's worth the watch. If you like the
I started
original.
watching. I watched like the first 5 minutes of it, and I don't remember anything of it. So
It's not special like the first one, but it's watchable. It's entertaining. It's an Eric movie.
yeah, we'll have to watch that with you, Eric.
Okay.
This wraps us up today. Unless you guys have any other last
No, I don't
final
think
comments.
so. I mean, I kind of wish we talked about sitcoms, but that's fine.
It's all good.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll do a sitcom episode in
should.
the future. I really think that's something we should circle back to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of TV topics we could get into.
Yeah,
So
we can. I thought
All right,
we were
so-
talk about what was good.
You can listen to us wherever fine podcasts are, because now we're on Spoopify.
Spoopify.
And-
Spotify.
Now I realized after I saw it said Spotify, I was like, oh, it does say
And
Spotify.
And
Yeah,
so
Spotify is one of the more common places to listen to music and podcasts. So if you have Spotify, you can now listen to us there.
yeah, finally. It took so long. You can email us, geeknerdtangent@gmail.com. Give us a call, leave us a voicemail, 801-769-6668. And
Follow us on Twitter at Geek Nerd Tangent and Instagram because we have some cool pictures of us there.
message us on Facebook at Facebook.
Pretty much, Eric is the one doing social media.
Yes, search
And
Geek.
follow us on Twitter because we do some cool tweets about just random media stuff.
Aren't you liked a couple of your tweets this week?
Yeah, they're good.
Oh, good. Well, we'll catch you next time.
As LeVar Burton says, see you next time.
Reading Rainbow. It's a good show.
I can go anywhere.
Eric just touched my hand.